in this current DLC patch, Melting is like top tier. It's the best clan that you can have in this game right now. In my opinion, it's better than Hellhorn. It's simply because a lot of people play Hellhorn a lot more. Everyone thinks that Hellhorn is good, but in my opinion, Melting Remnant is better than Hellhorn because of all the utility cards that Melting Remnant has. Hey guys, welcome back to another Monster Train guide. So now the 5th tournament has concluded, and I have gotten to the semifinals better than last time. Last time I only got to the quarterfinals, but this time got to the semifinals, lost by only a couple points, 4 points I think, to Bestari. But anyways, that has passed now. And so I will move on from Wormkin. Wormkin, I have practiced that clan for 2 weeks, got to know a lot of combos, what cards are good, what cards are bad, and I did a guide on that. So if you want to check that out, there is a playlist on my channel. It should be on my front page, so check that out if you want to know more about Wormkin. But for this video, I will move on and go backwards to Melting Remnant, talk about what cards are good in Melting Remnant, what cards are bad or not so good in Melting Remnant, and just discuss it in general. I will also play a 2 to 3 games after this discussion, like to show you what decisions I would make in an actual game. Obviously, I will I will play this in Covenant rank 25. So if you want to see me play that and explain a thorough game on Covenant rank 25, yeah, stay tuned, subscribe, yeah, all that fun stuff. So let's discuss Melting Remnant. First, we are looking at the champions. So the champions, we have Rector, Flicker, and Little Fade. So first, Rector, Flicker. Burn Bright. This used to be really good before the DLC launched, but because the DLC, everything, all the pack shards and buffing the enemies, and because you can't put a unit essence onto a champion, the Burn Bright is just not great anymore, simply because even if you have rank 3 on this Rector Flicker, 145, it's not enough. Sometimes, like in the Divinity fight, if you can't kill the backline unit, you're taking 70 damage, sometimes 100 damage, just from one single wave. And you can revive your Rector Flicker, but rather than reviving a Rector Flicker, you want to spend that reviving something else, a banner unit that is like that you actually want, that has multi-strike, has quick, all that fun stuff. Burn Bright is used to be really good, and then they nerfed it, and then they never buffed it back for the DLCs. So it's not a great pick unless unless there is some synergy with Burnout that you can use. I will talk about those later when I talk about the cards. Moving on to the Accumulator. This is actually good, like this, because the harvest, it's infinite scaling, quote unquote infinite scaling, because you can continue to scale. Your health is like, you can get up to more than 145 in the Burn Bright. you can just scale up to like 200, 300, 400 just health, and you put him on as a frontliner, and then you have your damage shielder in the back to actually do the damage. So Rector Accumulator is actually, you would want to either rank two ranks of this, or even 3 ranks of it. The reason I say that it's 2 ranks of the Rector Flicker is because you might want 1 rank in Dark Calling, because reforming is actually valued quite highly in general, I think, after the DLC dropped, simply because you want to bring back your units, because you want that security of bringing back your units. Sometimes I take it just for that security of in case my units die, it's a free sustain. You don't really care that your units are dead. They're just brought back the next turn, and if your units have quick, you don't miss damage at all, because you quick, they die, your units hit first and then they die, and then your Rector Flicker can just burn them back on that same turn. Alright, so future Night Angel here. After I looked at the footage from my recording of the Melting Remnant guide, I felt that my explanation for the Rector Flicker positioning wasn't really clear if I didn't actually have a visual indication of what is going on. So I have Paint here open, and then we can just go over this in Paint. And I will draw it out in Paint here, and then explain how to position your Rector Flicker, your Reform Rector Flicker to be exact, or Dark Calling. It's a real name. So when you have Dark Calling, it reforms it has reform 2 random units with +5, +10, +15, I think, attack. So let's see, how do I draw this? Okay, so first, let's go 3 floors, right? We have our 3 floors. First off, are the floor differences. If you have, okay, let's just say that this is our Rector Flicker. If we have our Rector Flicker, let's put him in blue, since since Melting Remnant is blue. So let's say we put our Rector Flicker on the top floor, because, well, we don't want him to die. He is a very valuable unit, since he reforms our units or other units. And then we have, let's say, our drag, a couple of units down here. So the monster train is unit resolve after every single turn goes from top to bottom. That is not the correct tool. From top to bottom. How do I draw an arrow? Oh, there's an arrow. That is not correct way. Okay, there is so from top to bottom. And how do I get rid of this? I feel like drawing in Photoshop would be better, but oh well. So, okay, so we have a couple units down here, and we have our Rector Flicker up here. So the monster train resolves from top to bottom, like the arrow indicates. So, for example, we end our turn, and then our Rector Flicker here goes first. So right now our reform pile doesn't have anything. Let's just say that this is our reform pile. Right now it doesn't have anything, it's empty. and then goes down to the middle floor and the top and then the bottom floor. And then the bottom floor, there is like this enemy here, and then the enemy attacks us and kills this thing. This first guy is killed. Yeah, I can remove it now. Okay, and let's say that this first guy is killed, and now this unit is in the reform pile. So, and then the turn actually ends without your Rector Flicker actually reviving or reforming your units. And then the next turn happens. Like, for example, on the very next turn, you end your turn again, and then the red goes down from this direction again. The Rector Flicker goes, and then brings back this unit, and then to your hand. Add it as, let's say like this is your hand, and then goes down, and then let's say that this unit gets killed. This unit gets killed, and then this is now in reform pile. And then you don't get this unit immediately. You get this unit, which has died 2 turns ago. So you essentially miss out on a whole turn of this whatever this unit's effect is. For example, if it's in Imp, you miss out on like Rage, Armor. If it's a Transcendent, you miss out on all that summon effect. Like if it's a Power Chomper, you miss out on summoning Ember. So you miss out on this whole effect every single turn. So this is good. Many people do play the Rector Flicker on the. So instead of the top floor, just play him on the bottom floor behind all this unit. So you would have this unit in front, this unit in front. Of course, there's a space limitation that happens that right now I'm not really indicating, but there is a space limitation, and you do want to consider your space a lot more since the Rector Flicker takes up 2 spaces already, and you have a limit. You only have 3 space if you're not playing with Umbra. To just play your units out in the front, and then if after they're killed, they're reformed back. Sometimes you just want to play out your units. You don't really care if they're reformed back, so you play your Rector Flicker on the top floor. Anyways, just because it's safer to do so. It depends on what you value, right? If you value your Rector Flicker's health, survivability a lot more, you play him on the top floor. If you really want your units to get reformed back, like instantly, when they're dead, and then if they are if you want them get scaled up really quickly, you would want to play all your units on the same floor, all your important units at least on the same floor, and then this doesn't need to be bottom floor. This can be middle hole or the top floor. But this is the thing. The bottom floor, like you might just put some of your chomp blockers, whatever like random units that you have onto the bottom floor, because just to get them killed. So that is a reason that having your Rector Flicker on the top floor is still fine. So, but if you want like, what is a good example? If you have a drag or imps and you want them dead, like you have a Transcend Imp, or you have the Fledgling Imp. And then you want them dead, so you play them in the front. They're killed. They're brought back immediately with more attack. You play them again. They buff your units. They're dead. They're brought back, and you play them again. So you play them every single turn, and you take less damage. I wouldn't say that you don't take any damage, but you take less damage on your units, just because there's a chomp blocker in front. So that is the positioning for the floors of a Rector Flicker. Another thing, this is more of a even more nuanced, is that let's just go with a new fresh page. Let's say you have we still have our 3 floors. We still have our Rector Flicker, but instead of putting units in front, this would normally be the case, but now we have this unit in the back. Sometimes this can be the case because you want your damage units in the back. Some of the squishier damage units, you want them to be just behind your Rector Flicker, since your Rector Flicker can still take some hits. Just for example, you have a sweeper from Awoken, one of those tentacle looking dudes, those sweepers, one of the 2 sweepers. It's you might want them in the back, and for example, the enemies have thorns, and then the enemies, they have some thorns on them, and your unit, your sweeper here, hits, and well, too many thorns or spikes, not thorns. Your sweeper here dies, but the game resolves this way. So your Rector Flicker resolves first. So here's a reform pile as usual. So right now, well, let's say that you end turn, and then they hit your Rector Flicker. He somehow doesn't die, but your sweeper here hits, and well, your Rector Flicker would hit first, and then his triggers his resolve ability to reform units, and then there isn't anything to reform, so he ends his turn, and then your sweeper here goes, he hits, and then too many spikes, he dies, and then he is brought into the reform pile. So yeah, now he's in the reform pile. Well, your Rector Flicker has already gone. The turn ends, and while these guys are dead, the enemies from the next floor. Now these guys would ascend up over them, and now in this new fresh turn, you only have a Rector Flicker to deal with these guys, because your sweeper is dead. Now this, you can, depending on the situation, depending on what unit you want in the back, if your sweeper here has quick, then it's a whole different story. If your sweeper has quick, your quick sweeper would actually act first, And if they have thorns, their sweeper dies immediately. So he would be brought into the reform pile. And then your Rector Flicker goes. And then, well, he is now brought back. So if he has quick, even if he is in the back, it is actually considered that he like in reality, in the game sense, the game's knowledge, he is actually in the front of the Rector Flicker. He goes before the Rector Flicker, and the reform would happen on that same turn. So this is very much understanding the game's mechanics, how how resolve works, the resolve keyword works. This applies to all resolve keywords. So, but most of the time, resolve doesn't have such a big impact. So it is less important to worry about. But for this exact circumstance, the Rector Flicker reforming units, this is very important, and sometimes it can ruin your game because you don't have that. You're relying on the reform, but you don't have that unit right away, and then you're screwed basically. So this is a really good. So this is the explanation of the reform mechanic for Rector Flicker. Obviously, it is still not as good as the primitive mode from the Little Fade clan, from the exiled clan, exiled version of the Melting Remnant, but it's I think one of the few reform abilities, including the cards, that you can rely on to reform your units if you're just playing the normal Melting Remnant. Yeah, like apart from the primitive mode, everything else, like all the other reform cards, or in this case the Dark Calling, they're not that reliable. Or you have to find the cards, so you don't get them immediately in your deck straight away like the primitive mode. But this is the second best if you want to reform your cards, your hand, your units, whatever. So the second best, you have to use this. I mean, you don't have to use this if you have molded or the other reform cards. You don't need to go with the Dark Calling. The Accumulator is much important, much more. Let me cover that up. I'm like just editing the footage, and I just thought about making this here. So yeah, if you have Dark Calling, an Accumulator, like if you have Accumulator, Dark Calling, it's less good. But if you need the utility from Dark Calling Reform, then just be aware of this game mechanic, that you need to play around and get your unit in the turn that you actually want. So that's the Dark Calling Rector Flicker, and I will send you guys back to the actual video. So overall, Rector Flicker is okay. You normally would use Rector as a supporting card, as a utility card, simply because all of the other units in Melting Remnant is really OP or really good in this game. In this current DLC patch, Melting is like top tier. It's the best clan that you can have in this game right now. In my opinion, it's better than Hellhorn. It's simply because a lot of people play Hellhorn a lot more. Everyone thinks that Hellhorn is good, but in my opinion, Melting Remnant is better than Hellhorn because of all the utility cards that Melting Remnant has, and we'll get to that. Like all the utility, of course, the most important is the reform. That when your units die, they actually come back. So you can actually, you don't really need a sustain option if you have reform, but there is like there is some sort of, you have to play around a little bit, because reforming doesn't really guarantee. Sometimes reforming is bad, but we'll get to that. So moving on to the Little Fade. The Little Fade is the best champion in the game right now. It's by far the best champion in the game right now. Like everyone agrees that Little Fade is OP, very OP champion right now. Firelight, everyone thinks that this is good. Eternal Flame, very good too. Little Icarus, it can have like really OP combinations. So Firelight, Extinguish, apply plus 20 damage, plus 5, 12, and 20 damage, plus 5 health, and burnout 2 to friendly units. So there is the burnout 2. So you need burnout extension cards when you're playing with Firelight on your units. So you want like there are like a couple of burnout extension cards, and then you will have a good combo to play with the Firelight Little Fade. And then you obviously want good units on the back, and then every time Little Fade dies, they gain some HP, but most importantly, they gain a lot of damage. And then Little Fade, like you actually want Little Fade to die, so extremely good. This is a very, very good path. Eternal Flame, also really good, simply because he has quick and endless. So on level 3, he hits and then dies, and then like he gets hit and dies, but on the very next turn he gets brought back, and then he hits for 65, and on the very next turn he gets killed and he comes back, he hits for 125, and then it scales. Like every single turn he gets 60 extra damage. This Firelight scales your units. This Eternal Flame scales Little Fade himself. But there is no because there isn't a multi-strike in the Eternal Flame here, so you do want other units with multi-strike just to clear, just to hit the backline, or clear multiple heavies on the same floor. So this so if you are playing Eternal Flame, you need obviously obviously for all paths you need some sort of backline or some sort of other unit. Maybe not for Little Icarus, but so for at least for these two, you need some banner champions or banner units to help you clear the units. So for Little Icarus, I actually didn't know this, but Little Icarus is It was seen in the 5th tournament played by Peanut Jack, Little Icarus, and Awoken's this card. The Awoken's adaptive mutation is actually really OP. So if you're playing with Little Icarus, you're trying to get as many spikes as you can, and then or spikes and damage as you can, and then you're trying to use the spike to kill for the kill, and then you can revive him, and you can keep on reviving him, and he'll get more kills, and so on and so forth. So the reason I said Little Fate is good with adaptive mutation is that the more attack he gets, the more HP he'll get, and then when you adaptive mutate him, he gets all that HP, and then he won't die. So, but he won't die. But even though he has very low attack damage, he still retains his spike. So, so you want to continuously stack up the spikes, and then just kill all the enemies using the spikes. Or if you don't get adaptive mutation, like just maybe having like 2 ranks in Little Icarus and then 1 rank in Eternal Flame can also help, because the Eternal Flame or 2 ranks in Eternal Flame and 1 rank in Little Icarus will you can actually just use the damage you gain from Eternal Flame to kill the enemies, and that way you get the Slain trigger, and then you get your permanent attack and spike. So because you also get a little bit of HP here, sometimes your Little Fate does survive, like survived a hit from the heavy unit, and then it actually like the backline enemies, they actually hit your Little Fate with Little Icarus, and then they just kill themselves because you have a ton of spikes from this Slay trigger. I've always just played Little Icarus with either 2 levels or 1 level, and then 1 level of Eternal Flame or 2 levels of Eternal Flame. If I don't get Firelight, that's what I'll do. Like if I get Firelight, I always just like to use Firelight, because Firelight, a lot of units can work with Firelight, simply because this scaling is just crazy. This scaling, especially against the Last Divinity, he would die almost every single turn, and then you just scale your units. You just continue to scale your units every single turn. Sometimes you do need, there are some anti-synergies with some of the artifacts or cards in Melting Remnant, but it's just a matter of card order, and then not actually taking those artifacts that have anti-synergy with Firelight Little Fate. So yeah, very good Firelight. These are also good, but you do need supporting cards for these 2 paths. Actually, all 3 need supporting cards. It's just that Firelight is easier to play. Okay, so Melting Remnant cards. So here are the units. There are good units and bad units, but there are more good units and like A tier, S tier units than bad units. Like bad as in like there's still like utility for them, because there is revive, not revive, there's reform in the Melting Remnant. They're not that bad. They still have their uses. They still have some utility, even you have them in your deck. Unlike some other clans where you have a bad unit, and then if you have to play it out, and then they get killed, and then you can't bring them back. So obviously drag, because drag is a starter card, it's not that good. But like sometimes you can still use it for its burnout effect. The one unit that takes advantage of the burnout is the Paraffin Enforcer. This is very good. Most of the time, most of the runs, you do get a Paraffin Enforcer because it is only uncommon. You get like uncommon units. I mean, all of the units are uncommon, except for like some rare units. But Lady of the House, Lady of the Reformed, Paraffin Enforcer, Paraffin Thug, Wickless Baron, Wickless Tycoon. These are all good cards, with the exception of Paraffin Enforcer being like S tier. If you have Paraffin Enforcer, you're pretty much set. It's you use Paraffin Enforcer along with Firelight, which Firelight puts burnout on your units, and then instead of burnout being a bad thing, burnout is actually now a good thing, because you want your units to have burnout so that your Paraffin Enforcer can buff them with rage. And on top of that, the unit essence for Paraffin Enforcer is burnout 2. So whatever unit that you put your Paraffin Enforcer on would have burnout, even if they don't have burnout. And strike also having this strike applies rage 3. So you can just put Paraffin Enforcer on any unit, and it will be good. Like any unit, and it's just great. You can put them on Paraffin Thug, Wickless Tycoon, like some of these units that are used to be really bad, or just used to be bad because they don't have like a scaling effect. Like Wickless Baron has a scaling effect here. And you just use to put these on like Lady of the Reform, Paraffin Thug, Wickless Tycoon, and then they can and you obviously would put multi-strike on them, and then they scale really fast. And like when I have a Paraffin Enforcer, I like to duplicate it immediately. You duplicate it immediately, so you have 2 of them. You either have 2 of these, or 2 of these with like 2 of the essences, and then you, like for example, you put a Paraffin Enforcer on a Paraffin Thug, and then you duplicate the Paraffin Thug that already has the Paraffin Enforcer on it, and then you put multi-strike on it, either before or after, preferably before you duplicate, since you want to save some money for like so that you don't have to put spend money for 2 or just spend time looking for the multi-strike stone. So you have 2 Paraffin Enforcers on the floor. And if you're playing with Little Fade, especially the Firelight, you get your extra attack and extra HP every single turn, and you can get more burnout so that they don't burn out, so that they actually stay alive. So the only downside to this strategy is that sometimes they burn out, and that can be a problem. And that is actually a really real problem, because 2 burnout is not enough. It's just not good enough, because you 2 burnout, if you play them on the top floor, you can't, unless you're playing with Little Fade, you get your Little Fade to die first turn, and then you revive him with burnout 1 on the second turn, and then you put him on the top floor. So that is so he would die and then give your units burnout. But sometimes you don't have Little Fade and you have Rector Flicker, so you would want to have burnout extension cards such as Paraffin Cleanse, Hallowed Drippings. Let me just do this. Paraffin Cleanse, Hallowed Drippings, Whiplash, or Waxen Spike. So you want your burnout to continue to stay on your unit, so you don't really want Witless recruitment. But you want continuous burnout extension. So you what I like to do is put holdover on either Purifying Cleanse or Whiplash, and just have them hold over. You draw them every single turn. What I also like to do is put intrinsic on. If I have Purifying Cleanse, I put intrinsic on Purifying Cleanse. If I have Whiplash, then you would want to have the -1 cost and a holdover on Whiplash instead of having intrinsic on it. You don't want to spend 1 mana or one ember every single turn for if you have holdover and intrinsic on the Whiplash. You don't want to ever to do that, because you want to use your mana on something else. It's not worth it to have Whiplash on your first turn, just to get yourself just to essentially ember drain yourself for 1 ember every single turn. So you want your 0 cost. Every single one is 0 cost. Vaccine Spike is X cost, but when worst comes to worst, you can just use this as a burnout extension instead of having it giving attack. Because if you're playing with the Paraffin Enforcer, your attack is no problem. There's no problem with your damage. You have 2 of them. They do you're hitting 4 times every single turn. Sometimes you're hitting 6 times because you have 2 multi-strike 2. And sometimes you have quick on them, so you don't take any damage. But yeah, this card is insane. So now I will do a little bit of different, and instead of analyzing all of the units, I want to just go over the individual strategies before I analyze the rest of the units. So for the Paraffin Enforcer strategy, the sustain is a problem. It is not a problem if you're playing with Little Fade, because of the primitive mode that comes with Little Fade. So since you can reform your units, any units, if your Paraffin Enforcer dies, just reform it. Obviously you don't want to reform your Paraffin Enforcers because the rage would disappear Okay, so what you want to do is you don't want your Paraffin enforcers to get killed, because all of your rage would just essentially disappear after it dies. But sometimes you can't help it, and then your Paraffin enforcers die. But there is always permanent mode to bring them back if you're playing with Little Fate. But the other champion that you have to consider is when you're playing with Rector. So when you're playing with Rector Flicker, you almost always want to pick up and mold it, just for the reform. Or if you are going for the Dark Calling, so like Dark Calling, maybe like you can use the Dark Calling to bring back your Paraffin enforcers if needed. So that is an option. But more often than not, you want to keep them alive using Paraffin Cleanse, Hollow Drippings, Maxim Spike, and the Whiplash. So now that your Paraffin enforcers are alive, they won't die to burnout, but they still have like not that much health. Like the Paraffin Cleanse heals for 15. It's good and all, but it's not like that great. So there are cards such as Engulfed in Smoke, Remnant Pact, Resin Removal helps a little bit. Crushing Demise helps like just kills an enemy immediately. Remnant Pact just like helps you so that you don't need to draw any reform cards. Engulfed in Smoke just hides all your units. Something like I always like to put holdover on Engulfed in Smoke, and then -2 cost from the temples on this card, just to have it 0 cost, and every single turn you play it, you continue to play it, and then your units just don't die. Your units are hidden and they don't die. And there is also Mortal Entrapment. The Mortal Entrapment deck is or card. The Mortal Entrapment card, it used to be really bad because it used to be such that Dazed wasn't that valued, and since like you don't need Dazed 3 like when it was just Seraph, and then this thing costs 3, so it doesn't do a whole lot, and also you need the unit to be already damaged as well, so it didn't work that well. But now this card is especially good against Seraph the Patient and the Last Divinity. So you daze, so because there is -2 cost on a single upgrade from the temple, you can put -2 and like -2 and -1 on this, just for the daze effect, just to have it at 0, or -2 and holdover to have like a 1 cost holdover daze 3. It's still it's good. It's still good. It's 1 cost, and like you still need to deal damage to units, but because there is that because you can make it 1 cost using only 1 upgrade, the other upgrade slot can be any other thing. holdover, double stack. Double stack makes this day 6. Like day 6 is just simply a lot. So this used to be a not so good, but days now is really valued, especially against the Last Divinity, so that he can't actually hit you every single turn. The damage from the Last Divinity actually ranks or stacks up pretty significantly if you don't have a good sustain option for your units. So you want to consider the mortal entrapment if you don't have cards such as engulfed in smoke. Like I normally don't pick both of them, but sometimes I do, and like having both stealth and dazed, like it's kind of like too much. Sometimes it's too much. But if you don't have holdover on your engulfed in smoke, it's still good to have a backup plan in mortal entrapments so that the Last Divinity doesn't hit your units and kill your units because you didn't draw that engulfed in smoke. Okay, so I think that is pretty good in explaining all of the burnout options in keeping your units alive and keeping your units to continuously stack damage for units such as Paraffin Enforcer, Paraffin Thug, Wickless Baron, Wickless Tycoon. The big sludge is I think an anomaly because it has like it's 3 spaces, so it is a little bit too big than the 2 spaces of the other units, and then you have to put go for a space upgrade in order to actually put 2 of them on the same floor. And obviously if you have a big sludge, you don't really need the Paraffin Enforcer because Harvest gain 5 rage is a lot in itself. So that, like, if you have the big sludge, like these 2, I think are sort of swappable. You can swap these, but I like the Paraffin Enforcer simply because it is more common and it does, I think, just a lot more because you can duplicate it and then have multi-strike on this, and then every single strike gives you 3 rage. Okay, so yeah, so that is Lady of the Reform, Wickless Tycoon, Big Sludge, Paraffin Enforcer, Paraffin Thug, Wickless Baron, Lady of the House, Draft would help also with the Paraffin Enforcer. Sometimes you want to put the Draft onto the Paraffin Enforcer to give it multi-strike 1 and also give it burnout, but since it is only burnout 1, you need either Paraffin Cleanse or Wicklash to keep this alive, and or you need some way of reform your Paraffin Enforcer. And then we have the other two rare units. So yeah, those are the Bounty Stalker and Legion of Wax. When you're offered Bounty Stalker first, you go all in on Bounty Stalker. If you're offered Legion of Wax first, you go all in on Legion of Wax. There is absolutely, I don't think, any point in time where you go both. You can maybe have the Bounty Stalker as an essence onto the Legion of Wax, But instead of doing that, you just go all in on Bounty Stalker and just go stack up the extinguish, get a lot of extinguish triggers, and go all in on Bounty Stalker. The upgrades that you need to go all in on Bounty Stalker are either like, there are several options. So you can have a draft as a multi-strike 1 and burnout 1 to put onto the Bounty Stalker. That way your Bounty Stalker dies every single turn, or dies at least first turn for now. And then you have Endless. You have either the Endless upgrade from the Merchant of Steel onto your Bounty Stalker, or you have the card Endless. The Endless card, the spell Remnant Pact. You put intrinsic on this, and then you draw your Bounty Stalker first turn, and then you draw a Bounty Stalker first turn, and then also your Remnant Pact. You put your Remnant Pact on your Bounty Stalker. Your Bounty Stalker has burnout 1. It dies, comes back. You play again. It dies. It comes back. Continues to stack its damage. That's a really good way. That's like the ultimate combination to play Bounty Stalker. The best combination is to put draft onto a Bounty Stalker so that you actually don't take up an upgrade slot for burnout. If you don't have a draft, you would like to find burnout and endless. So that way you would have burnout and endless, and your Bounty Stalker still stacks its damage every single turn, but it won't have multi-strike. If you have draft on your Bounty Stalker, like you innately would have burnout, and then you spend one upgrade slot for endless, and then the other upgrade slot you can put another multi-strike on it. So that way Bounty Stalker has multi-strike 3 and gets killed every single turn. So it's like it scales up really quickly, and that damage is insane. Then you duplicate it either once or twice, and you're off to Flying Kill, Seraph, and the Last Divinity. So that is like a really good combination. One thing to note is that when you're playing with Bounty Stalker, you do want to clear the waves, but clearing the waves is not the priority. If you have like a really stacked Bounty Stalker, simply because you can just kill the Seraph, because your Bounty Stalker dies every single turn. You can just follow the Seraph around on the floor, on each floor, and then you play 2 of them on the same floor, and then they kill whatever minions that is on the floor and hits the Seraph. Or if there is no minions on the floor, it just hits the Seraph directly and does a lot of damage that way. If you have this combo with the draft onto the Bounty Stalker, the Bounty Stalker hits 3 times. Sometimes you can get up to 200 damage, 300 damage per hit. So that is like 900 per Bounty Stalker. So 1800 damage per turn. And that is like 3-4 turns to kill the Seraph. Obviously, that does require a lot of setup. You do require a draft, either as a starting card or you pick it up. You pick it up from one of the choices. So that's the Bounty Stalker. Normally, you would go focus all in or just go all in on Bounty Stalker, and that can yield you very nice results. The other one is the Legion of Wax. So the Legion of Wax is tricky, more tricky or trickier than the Bounty Stalker, because innately he doesn't have a scaling. He doesn't have damage scaling. Like, the good thing is that when he dies, he summons more things, so you want him to die. There is several options to combo with the Legion of Wax. Several other units to put onto the Legion of Wax for the combo. If we toggle the unit essence, there is the Formless Child when extinguished plus 20. So every time he dies, every time the Legion of Wax dies, you add 20 damage to itself, and also to the Twin of Wax that gets summoned. And then when the Twin of Wax dies, they add 20 damage to the Mote of Wax that gets summoned. The other one is the Entombed Explosive, or the Devourer of Death. This deals 50 damage to all enemy units per thing that dies, per Twin of Wax or Mote of Wax that dies. This deals 50 damage to the front enemy unit, so that can be a lot of damage. If you, I guess, if you play it correctly, I guess. But because there is only one, and then summons two more, and the 2 summons 4, so there are only 7 units that get summoned. So you actually don't do that much damage if you go with Entombed Explosive or Devourer of Death as the unit essence. But the one thing that can happen is you can get Small Stone on the Legion of Wax, making it only 1 space. And if you can't get that, then this Legion of Wax is just OP then. Like, if you have Small Stone, it just becomes insane. Because you can put more than 1 Legion of Wax on the same floor. You can duplicate your Legion of Wax. You can just put a Legion of Wax on whatever space that is left, because it only has 1 space. It's just insane. But since the Small Stone is only a cavern event, and you don't really get it that often, you can't really rely on getting that event. So it is not as a reliable of a strategy as, like, maybe just putting I think I like to maybe just put the Paraffin Enforcer onto the Legion of Wax. But it doesn't do a lot of damage unless you have multi-strike also on the Legion of Wax. So even though you want the Legion of Wax, even though the Legion of Wax dies, whatever that gets summoned would also hit and gets the rage. Like, it you just want whatever gets summoned to have however many rage that gets generated. Even if they die, you bring your Legion of Wax back, and then you play again, and then and if you have multi-strike on the Legion of Wax, it's still a lot of damage despite your rage getting refreshed over and over again, you don't retain a lot of the rage, but it's still quite a lot of damage because you have a lot of units. But the one thing to note with the Legion of Wax is that you can't really rely on it that much. For example, if you have Formless Child or Paraffin Enforcer onto the Legion of Wax, the scaling is there, the damage is there, but you need it to die. You need it to die like the first turn, it's definitely not doing any damage. The second turn, it's doing a little bit of damage, but it's not doing a lot of damage. And then the third turn, maybe that's when the damage starts scaling up. So in the first and second turn, you do need some other units to help you clear those waves, because the first and second turn there are still a lot of units, a lot of enemies that gets like goes up to your train. So you still need to kill those units. So that is when the Legion of Wax, that is when your other units comes into play, and you need some other supporting units in order to actually play the Legion of Wax. But it's either you focus on your Legion of Wax, like there is a focus, you still need a priority between your units. You can't have, it's like life. You can't do this and this. You can't do engineering and write a novel at the same time. You can't be an engineer and also be a good writer at the same time. You have to focus on one of them, and then you get like a Nobel Prize in engineering, or you're like a famous writer. So you have to focus on one of them. Either you focus on your Legion of Wax, and then you have your supporting units, like as a just support. You keep them alive, and then they just do their own thing, and then you focus a lot of your cards on your Legion of Wax, or you leave your Legion of Wax alone, and just as like some simple chip damage here and there, and then you have focus a lot of your card, your scaling cards, your sustain cards onto your other unit. For example, you can have your Legion of Wax, and then you have a Paraffin Enforcer floor. Like, to me, like having the Paraffin Enforcer should be good enough, but maybe you have like big sludge and you want a Legion of Wax just to have some chip damage here and there, and then you have your big sludge to finish the enemy off. Or you have a Vickless Baron, because Vickless Baron doesn't do a lot of damage. You want some chip damage from your Legion of Wax, and then your Vickless Baron can finish them off. So that is the Legion of Wax. It's a good card, but it's not it's not as independent as the Bounty Stalker. You need a lot of support for the Legion of Wax. For the Bounty Stalker, you just need 2 upgrades, Endless and Burnout, and you're done. Or you need Endless and Draft, and you're done. Sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating because you just never find that Endless upgrade. Like sometimes like this always happens to me, that when I want the Endless upgrade, I never get it, and when I don't want it, when I actually want a multi-strike upgrade, I always get Endless instead. So that is just, yeah, that's just what like that's just life, I guess. And one thing to mention for the Legion of Wax is that you can put large stone on it. The thing with putting large stone on it is that it just doesn't die. That can be a problem because it just has too much health and it doesn't die, and you can't get your units, you can't get your Twin of Wax or Mortal Wax out fast enough to do the damage. But the one thing that Legion of Wax is great at is killing bosses. Because bosses have Relentless, it'll kill the Legion of Wax no matter what, and if you have Endless or Large Stone on Legion of Wax, you just melt bosses. At least early bosses, you melt them. I think I would say up to ring 6. Even ring 7, you can most definitely kill the bosses using 1 or 2 Legion of Wax. You just kill them, no problem. But the main thing with playing with the Legion of Wax is the normal floors, normal enemies. So that's where your other units come into play. Okay, so those are the 2 rare units. Those can be categorized as their own strategies. If you have Bounty Stalker, you're set. If you have Paraffin Enforcer, you're set. If you have Legion Wax, you're mostly set, but you do need some supporting cards. And the last set of units that I want to mention are the Extinguish cards. I mentioned a little bit about the Entombed Explosive and the Devourer of Death. So normally Devourer of Death, it's not good. This card doesn't do anything. You might want to use it for its essence, but this doesn't, like, this is just not a good card. I'm not gonna go into detail why that is the case, but just know that it's not a good card. Because there is reform in Melting Remnant, Remnant Host, Molten Encasement, and Entombed Explosive, they are just good. They're good because if they die, well, just bring them back, and then Melting Remnant Host just summons 2 more drafts. Entombed Explosive just hits for 50 again. And then Molten Encasement. So sometimes you don't get the engulfed in smoke. That's where the Entombed Molten Encasement can come in and to give your units stealth. If you have Endless on Molten Encasement, you play it every turn for 1 mana, and then your units won't get hit. This is also a good card for sustain, but because a unit cost down is rarer than spell cost down. Like, the Molten Encasement is less valued than the Engulfing Smoke. And obviously, the Molten Encasement, you need 1 space to play it. Sometimes you don't have that 1 space, and it can, like, and if you have Engulfing Smoke, you don't need to save that 1 space for Molten Encasement. You can put a damage card, damage unit like a draft, or sometimes you can put two space. You can have a like 2 space unit, and every unit you put on that same floor is a good. It's good damage, just to kill the enemies. Yeah, so those are the units that are in the game. I guess one last unit is Mortuary. Mortuary, sometimes you get him in the in the like starting cards, in your starting cards, and you play him like he is good to use as an endless essence, but like since there is a endless upgrade, you want to use your essence as a scaling, as damage scaling, so you don't want to spend your essence for just simply endless. And Mortuary, it's good on the draw, but he would need to die, and then he dies, he draws, and then you draw him again next turn. So essentially, you don't really draw an extra card because you draw him again. And sometimes you can use this endless effect, this innate endless effect for scaling. You can put Bounty Stalker onto a Mortuary, and then like if you can't find it in an endless the upgrade, you put the Bounty Stalker onto the Mortuary, and then this guy already has endless, and then you just need to put multi-strike and burnout on him, and he still does a lot of damage. In terms of scaling, 1 attack and 10 attack is not that much different because you can just scale. You just die a bunch and you scale your damage a bunch too. Okay, so there are all the units. Now moving on to the spells. I did mention a couple of the spells already. The burnout spells are most of the time you do need a lot of these burnout spells just to keep your burnout units alive. Sometimes you do get a Witless recruitment, and then you just remove your burnout if you want. Sometimes it's not good to remove your burnout in the case of the reckless why do I blank out in case of the Paraffin enforcer, but that always just depends on the run. Then there are a lot of utility cards. I guess the reform cards come first. Reform 2 random units, whatever. Molded, reform a unit, target a unit. Primitive mode, I think, is like really good. One of the best starter cards, I think. And then Wicked Blades, 2 cost. Obviously, you can just cost down this card, and then it's a better molded. All 4 of these do the same thing. They just reform your units, either give them more damage in the case of Wicked Blades, or just simply reform your units. And having reform in the clan, it's just great because, as I said in the beginning of this video, you can just basically, it's like a backup plan in case your main sustain it fails. And then there is Hallowed Halls. This Hallowed Halls is insane. This simple card makes the Legion of Max great, insane. Hallowed Halls it like even you see here in the picture, you see the Legion of Wax dropping down from the ceiling. This is because it kills all units, so kills all friendly units. Because so it kills all your if you have a full health large zone Legion of Wax on the floor, and then it's not gonna die, and you want it to die because you want more things to summon. So you kill it, it's like whatever thing the Twin of Wax gets summoned, and then since the Legion of Wax is now in the dead pool, you can like it actually reforms back the Legion of Wax if your floor still has more space. Sometimes your floor doesn't have any more space and you don't get that, but it's like it's a really good card to so that like to reform back your units, and if you have holdover on this, you continuously reform back your units every single turn. You duplicate it, you reform your units back more times, multiple times every single turn, because this kills your friendly units, and like it kills your friendly units and then it reforms. So like even if your dead pool doesn't have any units in the beginning, after it kills your units, your dead pool will have more units. So you can kill, and then boom, bunch of units are in your dead pool, and then they're brought back. And then you can continuously to do this to scale up your units. And then also give them a bunch of burnout. Yeah, very cool card. This is a very cool addition to Melting Remnant in the DLC, because this is the newest card that's added to the DLC. Added from the DLC, I guess. And yeah, so other cards are simply the 3 damage cards: Fatal Melting, Subsuming Blade, and Memento Mori. Fatal Melting is an AoE, so all AoEs are welcome in the deck. So you can put magic damage on this. You can put 30 plus 30 or plus 10 piercing, or just simply plus 10 magic damage on this, and then you kill the backlines. AoE is always used to kill the backlines, because you like the front lines, you have your units to kill the front lines instead. Subsuming Blade is good if you get it early, and because you can cost down this, and then you can keep on playing it. You can have it holdover or not have it holdover, doesn't really matter. It's acts as a backline removal. Because it has piercing, it is reliable backline removal. Doesn't matter if they have spell shield, doesn't matter if they have the armor. Whatever HP they have, you just kill, and yeah, they're dead. The piercing is really nice. This is the only backline targeting besides the Fatal Melting, which is an AoE. It's not really backline targeting. This is the only backline targeting in Melting Remnant. So Melting Remnant doesn't really have that many backline targeting or that many targeting spells, that many damaging spells. So like you want other clans, you want the damaging spells from other clans to to patch up this weakness that the Melting Remnant has. Sometimes you don't really need the backline targeting, but like you still want them. Like, to be fair, you still want them so that your units don't get killed. I mean, unless you have stealth, which means that your units won't get hit ever. Like if you simply just have days, you still want to remove the backlines because they're dealing just 25 times 3, 25 times 2. Sometimes they have there's the multi-strike enemy that gives everyone multi-strike. You want to get rid of those guys. Just get rid of them, and the damage that you're gonna receive drops significantly. The last card is Memento Mori. This is like, despite it dealing a lot of damage, it's not great because it's just one target. Like, we're in the DLC, we're in the Last Divinity. Just killing the front line, not great. Sometimes you can argue that you can use this card to kill the mini bosses from the Last Divinity. But when you have a crushing demise, this just kills the mini boss. Doesn't do any damage, just kills the mini boss. When you have such things as the crushing demise, this Memento Mori just pales in comparison. So it's not that it's like, sometimes it can work, but it's more situational and less good. So overall, very OP clan. Very OP clan. I think I feel I didn't mention memories of the Melted and Sacrificial Resurrection. These are not good in general runs, but Sacrificial Resurrection is good in the challenge, in the special challenge, expert challenge. This challenge, Blighted Existence, when you have all these blight cards, you can just sacrifice them and then turn them into a drag, into a powerful drag at that, and you can just create a very large drag. And then there is the Sacrificial, and then there is the Memories of the Melted. It's you just simply use this as a supporting card. Since Melting Remnant only has this one X cost card, you almost always want to use this in combination with another X cost card from another clan, especially Umbra. There are a bunch of X cost cards, and Awoken for the Awoken's Rail Spike. And obviously some of these neutral cards like the Blessed Sword and the Holiest Shield. This is just good to have. It's like, sometimes you just draw it and then you don't have that many units that have died, so it's not that good. I mean, obviously, if you have the Legion of Wax, those units that die, they count towards this. So if you have Legion of Wax, this is good. This is a good card. But other than the Legion of Wax, this is not that good. So it has been an hour and 20 minutes for me. That's all of the cards, all of the champions path for the Melting Remnant. So hopefully you guys learned a thing or two on how to play the Melting Remnant. I used to hate this this clan a lot because it's difficult to play. But now that the Last Divinity has come, now that the DLC is here, this clan is by far the best clan in the game. If you ask any other streamer player out there, I believe that they would all say that this is the best clan. Little Fate is the best champion, and Melting Remnant is by far the best clan in this DLC. And by best clan, I mean the most OP clan. Anyways, with that all being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys learned something. I will have my runs, Covenant Run 25 runs, up on the channel really soon. So stay tuned for that. Consider subscribing, and I will see you all in my runs. Peace.